What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run a 5-week program at the Inner Knowing School for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals, a number of practical tools and frameworks for creating an intuition practice and for self mastery. You can find more at theinnerknowingschool.com. I have a master's certification in intuition medicine, and I've condensed 10 plus years of experience and research navigating how to harness your energy and intuition in an easy to access live curated course. Now, as someone who's helped countless creatives, entrepreneurs, and many who are just plain stuck, open doors of possibility they never thought existed, I've seen this strategy transform people's inner states and external reality. And the best part is that you'll skyrocket your output and unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly live to overcome your limiting beliefs and show you how to manage your energy instead of your time. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition based on some of the top tools and frameworks that I've developed. And you'll get access to guided meditations and visualizations not available anywhere else. This method is so effective that even if you don't have that much time, or if you think that you might not be ready, this will work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can check out what past clients had to say about the program. Wishing you all many blessings ahead. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Blood Moon Box, a monthly subscription box service for period pads and tampons to help support all humans who have a cycle for that time of the month, and no need to run to a store to mix and match period supplies that don't cater to the entire ebbs and flows of your cycle. There are 2 box options based on your cycle, light and medium, and then heavy. And in addition to the period products, you'll also receive PMS herbal teas, a candle, and some other items for your time of the month. You can reserve a box by navigating to bloodmoonbox.com. And bloodmoonbox.com is on a mission to destigmatize the idea of period blood. At Blood Moon Box, they believe that it is the time to honor the enchanting magic within every person who has a cycle. So join us in embracing the magic of your cycle with Blood Moon Box. Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, consciousness, and spirituality. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with Madame Gandhi. She began producing music in 2015 after her story, running the London Marathon, free bleeding to combat menstrual stigma, which went viral around the world. She's been listed as Forbes 30 Under 30 in music, and her 2020 TED Talk about conscious music consumption has been viewed over 1 million times. I could go on and on about Madame Gandhi, and I'll let her speak for herself. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy and excited to have you on here.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be here.
Likewise. So, Kieran, so you've created so many incredible songs. What's really the key to creating an authentic voice?
For me, music really represents a timestamp of emotion. And it's essentially an opportunity for somebody else to experience something that we may have felt strongly in any given moment. And in fact, when creating or when I'm mentoring other emerging musicians and artists, the most important feedback that I've been giving, because it was feedback that I needed to hear myself, was to put out the music as closely as possible to when the emotion was felt or created. A lot of times we make something and then we edit it. But that takes us farther and farther away from that kind of God energy of being in the moment. I would say that the times that I have made my favorite music is when I'm moved by any kind of emotion, whether it's related to my activism, seeing some kind of injustice in the world that I think can be healed or soothed, or feelings of love, or pain or sadness. So unless I feel a very strong emotion, I don't bother making music, because I feel like the highest quality stuff that I've put out has that sincerity to it. I'll also add that because I'm not I'm choosing to not participate in kind of a capitalist mentality when it comes to putting out music, it takes me much longer because emotions are authentic. They're going to flow as they're going to flow. And the desire to make a song is going to flow only as authentically as the emotion is there. So I'm never sitting there like, oh, I got to put this out by March and really hit that, summer album cycle. And, I got to really like put this out before the back to school period. I don't participate in all that. I want to make stuff that's timeless. So that's the other part that's very important to me. Sometimes I beat myself up for not putting out things quick enough, looking at how social media works, how music industry and labels work. But I'm interested in the long game. I'm interested in a long-term career where the music is relevant and authentic, no matter what is happening in the music industry.
That's amazing and beautiful. I love that you said that because I think a lot of people are, like you said, they're kind of moving in this social construct of like the social media calendar and like putting things out when the time is right. So I love that you are moving at your own rhythm, which also is very kind of a feminine way to move through life, which is really about receiving, allowing, not forcing, pushing, and pushing
Well
an
said.
agenda, right? Yeah, I really love
Well
that.
said.
So, and I want to double click on what you just said about your emotion, you getting it out as soon as possible. I really, really appreciate and love that because, as an artist myself, as a writer, I definitely notice that it does take me some time to kind of push things out into the world because we want it to be perfect, or, we feel like, we just need a little bit more time, a couple more months, a couple more weeks. But I'm wondering, like, from an emotional perspective, how can you tell when you're onto something that feels like it's coming from the heart or if it's coming from the mind? Because emotions can be fleeting and they can also be like deeply, deeply, powerfully connected to the heart intelligence, the kind of universal intelligence. So how do you kind of discern those two?
It's just about my enthusiasm. If I want to keep on working on it, then there's this kind of excitement, God energy, love, positivity, high vibration. So I'm stoked to work on it. So it makes me want to keep going until the end. And my favorite songs are really the ones where I made like majority of the song, like 80% of it up front in that moment. And then the back end is fixing the drums here, lining up something that's off the grid, tuning something that might be out of key, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, I actually prefer the songs that I've made and kept closest to the original. If you talk to many artists, you'll find that often people talk about using the same demo vocals that happened on the day that the song was first made. And the reason for that is because there is this authenticity that's preserved and an effortlessness in the sincerity of the vocal when it was originally sung. And I find that to be very true in my case. I oftentimes prefer the original vocal, and maybe I'll overdub it with a more powerful delivery, a stronger delivery, a more in key delivery. But usually we're at the very least blending it with that original vocal because of the authenticity that is palpable on the record and that I want my audience to feel, and therefore feel motivated themselves to go and be their truest human self in their own world and career.
So you like follow kind of inspired action, that tapping into that potential. And so I think a lot of people don't even really know what it feels like to feel inspired, right? Like so many people are kind of moving through life or reacting to life rather than sort of having a sense of agency, right? So I think that for people that might be listening who really want to create, who really want to become artists, but have never really kind of taken that leap of faith, what would you say to them?
I have three different things I could say. One is spend time with kids, like go and spend time with your friends' kids, go and spend time, mentoring young people, because kids are truly present because their brains are not fully functioning. So all they can be is present. It's the most liberating, energetic to be around because ultimately this is creative. Ultimately, this is God energy. Ultimately, it's the only truth because it's the moment that's right in front of us. It's the only thing that is actually 100% accurate, the truth, this moment right now. And kids are understanding that. So I find deep inspiration from hanging out with my partner's kids, my friends' kids. It's such a beautiful time. And even when I'm mentoring students who are a little bit later in their career, I still find that spirit is there. And I often find myself guiding them back to that spirit as well. The second thing I would say is mixing up contexts. When I'm finding blocks and challenges in my career, I just leave it there and I go for a run, or I go and sit for meditation, or I go and hang out with somebody, or I go and practice my matcha making or mocktail making skills, or, like creating joy and enthusiasm, and allowing us to connect to our human self in other contexts allows us to get full up again, to come back to the challenge with fresh energy, with humility, with joy, with not being so tired or depleted. And then vice versa is also true. When I find myself being insecure in my relationship or fighting in my relationship, causing trouble, being whiny, being moody, being frustrated, I let it be because I see that's not my authentic self and I don't want to show up that way. So then I'll go to my career. I might go to my social media. I might make sure that I'm booking more work and shows for myself so that I can step into my God energy in a completely different context and come back to my relationship again with humility, with ability to say sorry, to take responsibility for my actions, to come with a higher vibrational spirit. So that's the second piece of advice is recontextualizing your sources of inspiration. And then the third piece of advice is actually just to create small wins on a daily basis. So wake up, make your bed in the morning. Oh my God, we already winning, 15 minutes on the Peloton, 10-minute run outside. Okay, another win. Wow. Can you move for 10 minutes? Of course I can move for 10 minutes. That's not 1 mile. That's not 10 miles. Can you move for 10 minutes? Yes, let's do it. Okay. Can we get into the shower? Like small wins. Truly. Can you keep the room clean? Yes. Can you cross off one thing on the to-do list? Yes. Because when we train the mind to have an optimist, positive, winning mentality, then we stay in that energetic. But if the to-do list becomes lopsided and we feel like we're not doing anything, then we won't even start. It's so overwhelming. So small wins is my third piece of advice about finding inspiration.
I love it because it's so, it's applicable to everyone and there's no excuses, right? Like everyone can do all those three things. So I really, really appreciate that. So Kieran, you talk a little bit about being connected to God energy. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And also, were you always connected to this God energy? Or let me actually rephrase that and say, did you always have a perception that you were connected to this God energy? Because I say this because I think a lot of people, see themselves kind of not connected to God or not connected to the universe, not connected to that universal power, right? So I'm just wondering, like, have you always been connected? And do you remember the moment when maybe you reconnected or gained more faith in your life?
For me, it's a feeling of love. It's a feeling of smiling. It's a feeling of enthusiasm, of lightheartedness, of laughter, of sweetness, of wanting to go above and beyond. These are the feelings of feeling lit up, of feeling I'm optimizing for my joy. I'm driving towards the light. And so, yes, I think as a child, I was very present. And those are those moments of happiness that allow me to have a reference point. In my teenage years, I was completely bullied when I was in an all-girls private school in New York City. But the beauty is that it pushed me to go out into New York and derive value from being a drummer, from being a DJ, from not being stuck in my school and actually being out in the entirety of Manhattan and expanding myself as a human. So again, as a result of feeling that pain, I knew that I was capable of more, and going out and feeling that again lit me up and filled me up. It's always been highs and lows, that feeling of, being pushed away from that happiness and then wanting to come back to it and strengthening that skill set. I would also say, when you ask me, what is God energy about, or happiness or joy or lightheartedness, most recently it's been something that's quite obvious, which is simply relaxation, like physical and emotional, mental relaxation. This is a very deep concept in India. They'll say, aram se, like go peacefully. Or even at the end of any yoga class you might take, you have dead body pose, which is Shavasana. And they say this is the most important posture in yoga because you're learning how to fully relax, full surrender, full acceptance, and full integration of what you've just learned. If I am tense and the fist is clenched, then nothing from the universe can be placed into the fist. If I relax and my hand is open, the blessings can come, the cup can be full, something can be placed in my hand. And truly, I feel that when I'm stressed, when my energy is confused, when my energy is knotted up, no one wants to be around you. Like, bro, take that energy elsewhere, But when you calm and cool, peaceful, happy, everyone's like, bro, I want to be around that energy. All we have to do is enjoy and, relax into this life. Like, what a concept. I want to be around that. Like, thank you for reminding me that as humans, we're so lucky to be on the planet, and we just get to smile and be lighthearted and enjoy, and, like, be present to smell, the deliciousness of nature. Like, truly, truly. So for me, this is how, I've come and go with my own connection to source. But then also the current definition for me has been around this idea of true relaxation.
Mm. Yes, I could not agree more. And I think that's also really hard for people to do in our kind of never ending work mode and always on social media, moving, moving, moving. So I love that you highlighted the dead body pose in yoga, because that's usually the part that I think most people don't want to do, or they just sort of feel like it's a waste of time to sit and relax. But like you said, it's like the energy won't flow if you are so tightened and contracted.
Well said. And also, I would say with that too is we have to the opportunity to actually practice 5 minutes of relaxation on the yoga mat or 10 minutes of meditation in the morning. You're actively practicing this feeling of softening, of gratitude. It's the anti-anxiety medication that we're all searching for. None of us, of course, America is more than happy to sell us expensive pills and things like that, of course. And in many ways, of course, we're grateful for modern medication. But for me, real ninja status for everything in my life is I don't want to need anything. I want to be able to create that sense of inner safety, inner peace on my own. And there's no way past it but through it, but doing the work, small, 10 minutes at a time every day. And this society now is talking so much about anxiety. We have to take that narrative back into our own hands and say, I don't want to participate. I want to come with peaceful energy. So every day I have to curate that for myself and practice.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting because I think that so much of our modern society feels like it's codependent, and we're moving towards this like independence. And I think this like last evolutionary stage is interdependence, right? Is like actually how do we come together but not feel dependent on each other, right? And I love that, like the ability to be one's own God, right? Like you are cultivating your outside world through your inner world. So, you talked about conscious music consumption in your TED Talk. And can you tell the audience, what is conscious music consumption? By the way, this is actually so synchronistic that we're having this conversation. I just realized that this morning in my Pilates class, it's super early in the morning. I think I'm still in my last stage of REM cycle, and the music is the lyrics are all like about person not having love, a person being broke, and I'm very sensitive to energy. I'm clairaudient, and so I felt like I got bombarded, and I went up to the teacher and I said, "Listen," I was like, "I'm not sure if you're noticing that the lyrics, every one of these songs, just feels like kind of not great for your subconscious." Programming. And she must have looked at me like I had three heads. But, I just wanted to share that story because I think it's kind of hilarious that happened this morning. But I want to ask you, so going back to the question, what is conscious music consumption and why is it important?
What you're talking about in your Pilates class is a wonderful example. And I do think in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it will be the new norm because all of us have to curate our consumption and our realities very, very responsibly. Because when we don't, the world and capitalism is more than happy to step in and capitalize on our mind space, our attention, our brain, our intelligence, and keep it low vibrational. If we listen to music that tells us we're not good enough, then we stay purchasing, then we stay buying, then we stay dependent on external factors to make us feel full again. Real radical thought realizes that we are already so beautiful, so magnificent, so empowered, so gorgeous, so intelligent. Wow, being a human on the planet, what a gift. But that's not what's taught to us. What's taught to us is you're not beautiful enough, you're not smart enough, you don't make enough money, you don't own a home, this and that. So everything is from lack mentality. Music has the opportunity to uplift or oppress. Music has mantra. Mantra is an Indian Sanskrit concept for positive affirmations. They used to chant over and over again a sacred mantra, oftentimes in the language of Sanskrit, which is the ancient Indian South Asian language. that affirms a positive value, a positive mentality, so that when you walk in the world, you're holding yourself accountable and guiding the mind and therefore action towards something that is good for the planet, good for consciousness, good for being in service. Music has the opportunity to serve as those mantras through what we are saying, but it also has the opportunity to oppress and keep us singing back things that affirm negative values. I myself am included. All of our minds are so much more sensitive than we think. I'll listen to music and I'll be like, maybe I need to go out and get the newest Adidas. Oh man, maybe I need to go out and start wearing, baggy jeans again, like all the kids are doing. Like I watch myself so sensitive to what's being said because no matter what, that's the design. As a creator, I can't tell other people how to make their music, but I can provide and design the alternative. My number one song to this day is literally Bad Habits. All my bad habits have got to go. It's the simplest, most affirming mantra, and all of my shows end that way. And again, it's the idea of, how do I show up in my ninja high spirit? How do I walk such that in any two-person dynamic, my 50% of the energy is kind, is thoughtful, is patient, is empathetic, is aware. And it doesn't mean that every single second I'm in my high vibration. What it does mean, though, is that I have awareness. I have a desire to optimize for my behavior. I have a desire to walk responsibly, with thought, with care, with peacefulness, with the ability to be in service. This matters to me. As a musician, I have an opportunity now through my music to share these values and share these messages. It's my contribution. It's my gift. It's the thing that makes me feel happy. So this is why conscious music is particularly important, because it has such an opportunity to uplift or to oppress.
Yes, amen. I love that you say the word mantra. I've been studying different yogic philosophies for a long time. I have mantra boxes in my in my house, and I think that, to your point about this, the conscious music consumption, creators, artists, people who are building really the narrative in our social construct, or at least in their own social construct, we have great responsibility. What we put out actually matters to the collective. And, I was sort of just like thinking to myself this morning, when hearing all these, and I'm very sensitive because I do immerse my reality with music that is uplifting, like you mentioned. I'm very aware of how much it actually impacts my self-concept, right? And so it just sort of boggles my mind that, I think the response of the teacher was just like, oh, well, I'm looking for upbeat musical sounds. I'm not really concerned about the lyrics. And I was like, fascinating. But, it's interesting. I think some people just don't really think it matters, or they're not aware that it is so, that we are so impressionable, but we are. Every movie we watch, everything we see, really. Even, you walk around cities, you get you react. Your subconscious is always picking things up. And you obviously have mastered this craft and understand that. But this is something I'm really passionate about. I've been studying, how our subconscious works. And I'm also curious, what are you seeing kind of as like the new way forward? Like, what's been the response to your TED Talk? How are artists showing up differently, or not? And why do you think that is?
Everything, is about the intention. I'm not interested in fame. I'm interested in positive influence. So the difference is, fame can be engineered. It can be bought. There are systems that you can participate. You also are relying on other people to think that you are some marketed version of yourself that somebody else has helped you construct in order to make money. And the beauty of that is that, of course, with great fame, you can have positive influence. Many of the artists today with great fame are writing big checks. They are being asked to say certain things on social media that could be positive things because they have such a wide reach. Of course, for that famous person, though, my concern is that you can't be fully authentically yourself. You are subscribed to something that you've bought into. There's a golden handcuffs element I don't know if you have freedom. Can you go out into the store and buy yourself some toothpaste? No. But many people say, no problem. Somebody else will go and buy it for you. You have to know what is your own intention. My number one value is freedom. I'm interested in my own personal freedom. I want to put out music when it is authentic. I want to travel when it's authentic. I want to say no when it's authentic. Freedom, above all, is extremely important to me so that I can continue to live in the present moment, continue to expand as a human, and to be the captain of my own ship. This is what matters to me most. But I've spent time to understand that about myself. That's not always true for other people. Other people say, I want to be part of a high functioning team. I want to be part of this, this, and this. Or when I was a kid, my story is such that I was missing this. And therefore, in my life, this other thing is very important to me. So for me, number one, first and foremost, is freedom. Number two is being in service. Every time that I have given my gift, shared my intelligence, played a song, mentored somebody, played with my friends, younger kids, these are the moments that light me up because I feel I'm in service, and therefore I receive so much from those interactions because I feel like I'm walking my path. So in that way, I have chosen to use music as the medium for my message. It's so intentional. It's by design. It's not going away. It's my path. For the next person over, that might not be the case. They may not. They may need to achieve fame in order to receive certain amounts of financial success, to therefore take care of their families, or to have a certain kind of influence that is authentic for them. Everyone has to know from the beginning what is the intention. This is real consciousness, in my opinion. Then everything from there flows.
Mm, amazing. Intention is so, so, so important. It directs the flow of energy, right? And I love that you really value personal freedom, and also just helping the collective. Really, that's so. And then I think the audience has been rewarding you for that, right? But it seems like it's not your end goal, but it's kind of amazing when you do have that level of recognition. That it does it
No,
feel.
it is. It is. It does. Yes, because for me, being accepted is a beautiful feeling. Being valued for my gift and for speaking my truth is the nicest feeling anyone can feel on the planet. I genuinely think so because I'm saying I'm humbly here being myself.
Right.
In the past, when I was myself, I was bullied. It feels
Mm,
terrible. I was quieted. It's the worst feeling. So, in fact, I still want to be brave to be myself because I know the feeling of being accepted when I am myself is the most golden, delicious, honeysuckle, sweetness feeling on the planet that you could ever feel. So it's not about fame on a humble level for me personally. It's actually just about acceptance.
mm. Feeling understood also. Amazing.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So, okay, Karen, you have so much I want to dive into, but I have to talk about the London Marathon free bleeding that caught my attention. I think, and I'm actually working on a product now for women in the period blood sector, and so it's just interesting, like this. The idea of women's period blood, right, is such a hot topic in the sense that there's been so much social shame about having our periods in modern culture, and we hide it. When we go to stores. I mean, I don't do that, but I feel like collectively there's been like this kind of conversation about just putting this thing away in the cupboard and not talking about it when it's happening. And I love that you just kind of put it front and center. And so, you've spoken publicly about your advocacy work around so many women's issues, including, having a period. So I'd love to know, why did you do this? And also, how has this impacted your music and your message?
Yes. In 2015, I ran the London Marathon free bleeding on my period. And when I crossed the marathon finish line, I wrote about this experience and the story went viral. And it really caused this kind of global conversation around how we treat menstrual health and stigma in various cultures, whether it comes to people who bleed, people who don't bleed, gender nonconforming folks, trans folks, women after their cycle, later in menopause. There's so much confusion, quietness, shame, stigma, all of these low vibrational feelings around something that's actually quite remarkable, something quite normal, and something that we should all be aware of, like anything else. Stigma prevents us from speaking openly and intelligently about our own bodies. And we as people who bleed actually have to first step into that sense of self-love in order to expect others who do not bleed to show up with that same sense of love, respect, admiration. We can't expect it from external. We have to first believe it and live it on a private level and then publicly and collectively. For me, what does that look like? First, it's understanding that every month when I bleed, I'm healthy as a 34-year-old, uh, you know, active biological woman. I'm so grateful that I bleed to the day on time. It means that I'm sleeping well, I'm rested, I'm peaceful, I'm eating right, I'm exercising, I'm healthy. I still have the opportunity to give birth should I choose to do that. Wow. Thank you, body. Thank you, self. Thank you, mind. Thank you, hormones. Great. Thank you, moon. I'm synced up with the moon. Wow, what a profound concept. I can look up at the sky and I can see the phase of the moon and I know where I am on my cycle. On the months that I'm off, wow, okay, what did I do differently this month that has thrown off my cycle? Oh, I'm fighting with my partner, so I have stress. Oh, I'm not sleeping right. Okay, I need to sleep more. I'm not drinking enough water. It's information rather than shame, stigma, silence, pain. No. And also, the more we share our pain, our experiences with endometriosis, all these different things, we're actually saving lives because folks are not having to suffer silently. The second thing, beyond just us as people who bleed, is engaging people who do not bleed. I think by design, it's quite beautiful and amazing that it's only half the population that has the chance to give birth, because there's an opportunity for the population that does not bleed to support us, to say, babe, how can I help you? How can I show up for you? What might you need? This is an opportunity for bonding, for emotional intimacy, for the men to actually step into their king energy and be supportive of their queens. Wow. Brothers, fathers, partners, co-workers. This is such a beautiful opportunity for us to come together vulnerably rather than pretending like we are macho and nothing is happening each month and we're fine and there's no mood change is foolish. The reason why we don't talk about it is because typically it has been used against us. If we admit that we are moody, oh, she can't run for office. If we say, oh, I'm in pain, oh, you're going to be missing work, so I don't want to hire you, right? Capitalism uses it against us. The real answer is for us to own what is truthfully happening and design systems that allow us to thrive within the truth of what is happening on our cycles. That is the difference. So for me, the world that I want to live in is one that designs for people who bleed, and one of love where those who don't bleed support and ask, how can we show up for you?
Mm. Amazing. This is such a powerful point. And, you spoke about also that the other half of the population is not bleeding. And so they, instead of there being judgment or shame and blame, that they should actually be supportive of the fluctuations within our inner world. And I really love that because I think we just haven't been able to really surface the women's health and what's going on within women's bodies in a way that feels acceptable to the mainstream, right? What people don't understand, especially in this like patriarchal culture, they end up, fearing or shaming or blaming, and so I really, really appreciate that. And, so I've been thinking a lot about the ways that we hide when we have our periods in general. We don't tell people, or we show up to work even though we feel we're sick that day. And there's a lot of information now around like the seasonality that women experience within their hormones, their endocrine system. Spain just passed legislation that gives women one day off when they have their periods. I'd like to live in a world, I don't know if you agree, but I like to live in a world where we can take the whole time off, that when we have our periods, if we choose, right? And so I think that this is something that's slowly starting to come to the mainstream, but I'd also love to just know how we listening can support you in the future work on this issue. Because I think a lot of women, especially, the Gen Zs, the younger generation in general, I think that there's a lot of people who really want to move this forward. for society, So yeah, so let
My
us.
answer is spiritual. My answer is spiritual. Of course, we can donate to folks who might be incarcerated and therefore have lack of access to products. We can donate to folks who are unhoused, and lack access to products. There's plenty of places that we can show up, and an easy Google search shows people how they can participate. But my answer is much more spiritual than that. I'm interested in, what are you doing as someone who's listening, whether you bleed or not, to show up in an empowered way each month around your cycle, or your someone in your community cycle? Is there a conversation? Is there noticing? Is there awareness? Is there an app that you're using to track how is your mood? How might you affect other people? What are the cycles? Because information is power. In my own dynamic, I fully own what I call my red zone. When I'm 10 days before my period is when I've typically noticed my mood is less. Why? Because the estrogen levels are starting to go down. So therefore my bandwidth is stretched. My ability to be self-aware is a little more thin. But when I engage my partner or my community or my business partners around that period and they're aware of it, they actually end up coming with more compassion, more sweetness, more care, because I'm actually challenged by that period and I don't want to show up with that kind of lower vibrational spirit. At the same time, it's important for me to own it and share. That's radical. That's actually changing the way we speak about things, because it's coming from a place of self-love and radical self-awareness. So to me, anyone listening, being connected to your own cycles, learning yourself, speaking yourself to other people, encourages them to do the same thing, and it optimizes us for our best periods and our times where we have to be a little bit more care oriented. And then also to your point about one day a month off, the pandemic, for folks who are privileged enough to work remotely or work in a hybrid office kind of context, technology has actually allowed many people, regardless of their gender, to find a lot more fluidity and flexibility in their schedule. Whether it's because they're a full-time parent, they can now work from home. Whether they want to travel the world because they're younger in their career, they want to work from Costa Rica or whatever. Some people who might be bleeding can still work from home, managing their period pain or discomfort, but still take some calls and do a lighter load that week. There is flexibility that's allowed by technology. One thing that's foolish that I see is that companies claim that if they give, some flexibility to folks who bleed on their cycle, that flexibility will be taken advantage of. Listen,
Mm.
anyone who takes advantage of a system that hurts them in the long term, you as a company don't need to monitor that. If you notice that somebody is not delivering work consistently and they are taking advantage of something that's meant to be for good, over time, I genuinely believe that's not sustainable anyway. That person is not giving good work. But most of the time, people who bleed also, they usually want to go above and beyond. They want to show, listen, I'm bleeding, but I'm still trying to show up. I still want to do a good job. So most of the time, these foolish assumptions that women will take advantage of a system, more often than not, will self-correct. And folks who will benefit from the system usually want to go above and beyond.
Mm. That's a great point. And it also, the theme under that is really about trust, right? Like, we don't have to control people. We just we trust that they're going to do what's best for them and best for their work and best for the greater good,
Totally.
right? And if they don't, then the system should self-correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the system feels like it's unfair in some ways, but I think that the pandemic felt like it's kind of moving towards that correction. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens on that front. But I'm sort of eyeing that space in general, and I want listeners. I'm encouraging listeners to do the work of looking at one's own life and then seeing how we can give back to the collective. So, Karen, your recent work has focused on themes of self-love. You mentioned self-love many times in this conversation. Can you talk to us, about this concept of self-love as, being connected to the broader social issues that you're experiencing?
Self-love allows for more bravery, more fearlessness, more risk-taking. When you love yourself, you can take risk because it doesn't matter what are the external reactions to that risk that you've just taken. So when I ran the London Marathon free bleeding, when I crossed the finish line, before I wrote anything about it, I was so proud of myself. I felt enormous self-love because I'd never run that far in my life. I'm not a runner. I'm not much of an athlete. I anytime that I had my period, I would just take 2-3 days off to rest and sleep and eat chocolate and whatever else we do when we are bleeding. So when I ran on day one of my period, 26.2 miles, and I successfully crossed the finish line, I had enormous self-love. And I explained that because then when the story went viral and millions of people all around the world are saying such toxic things, hatred things, even though there was so much love and cheering and admiration, there was just equal and opposite amount of negativity. And I would have been completely destroyed by that negativity had I not already been proud of the action unto itself. And that gave me force and power and fearlessness and bravery through that viral experience. So much so with anything else, with social media, if there's not strong self-love and a strong self and belief in the thing, if you put something out and it doesn't react, you'll be destroyed. But if you put something out and it doesn't react, you will be objective enough to say, oh, it doesn't matter, they didn't love it, I loved it. Or it doesn't matter, the algorithms are broken these days, everyone's on TikTok. Doesn't matter, you can have objective. I'm proud of myself. Future Kieran would be so proud of 2023 Kieran. But if the self-love is not there, if the foundation is not strong, if you're seeking the self-love from external, now, of course, there's anxiety because you're playing Russian roulette, putting something out, hoping that others will affirm you to build you back up. And it's a 50-50 chance because either no one will like it and now you're even worse than when you began, or some people will like it and now you're on the addiction cycle of receiving external accolades. So the reason why cultivating self-love from the inside out is so, so vital is that it allows true bravery, true leadership, true freedom, and you're not sensitive to what's happening on the external.
So powerful. You keep going back to this, and it's really cool. It's like this, your internal state is really where your masterpiece begins. Like it's where the blank canvas really starts. And the external world is really what's been going, it's a reflection of what's been going on in the internal. So I really love that that's your MO, like self-love, because I do think that there's a lot of assumptions that women have been forced to make in our lifetime to feel like we only deserve love if this happens, this sort of assembly line life, or, there's just a lot of projections happening all around. Oh, you don't have this. And, and so I love that the self-love is kind of unconditional, right? There's like this, it's not dependent on any outside forces. Have you always been connected and loving yourself, Kieran, or not?
I think it's noticing, when the external accolades were not there, seeing my own self-confidence plummet and then noticing, oh, I'm fully on the hamster wheel addiction cycle of external accolades. And so if I participate in this, it's going to stay this way. I'm going to constantly be on the achievement addiction, constantly needing to achieve external stamps and of approval in order to prove X, Y, and Z. No, I'm done. I don't want to participate in it anymore. It's foolish. That traps us just like any other addiction. I'm not participating. I want to be beautiful and lovely and amazing when I'm shopping at the grocery store and checking out and giving the checkout person nice energy and we're making eye contact. I want to be loving and happy and have a beautiful experience when someone on the tube in London is sitting next to me and it's like, I love your energy. I love your outfit. And I'm like, I love your energy. I love your outfit. On a human to human, this is real achievement. This is real high vibrational. So that's been the shift for me in the last couple of years, is really undoing that attachment to the outside and really feeling empowered from the inside out so that I can be contributing value to people and being in service. And I see the detriment. I see how it destroys my self-confidence when I'm seeking it externally and it's not there. It creates, we have whole books now on love attachment styles, right? The anxious attachment person in the relationship is the one who's seeking that comfort from the outside. But that comes from something that was missing in childhood, let's say, or our addiction to social media. Again, it's that desire for approval. Approval is a beautiful thing. We all want to be accepted, but absolutely what you're saying, it does start from the inside out. It starts from creating mini wins from the inside out, from meditation, from realizing that we're already so beautiful. There's already so much love. And then you ask me, how is that cultivated? I think now at 34, I'm stepping into my own maternal energy. I don't have kids yet, but I have friends in my life who have beautiful, beautiful kids. And I see the value of being that strong, queen-like maternal role for the next generation, protecting them, encouraging them, loving them. So in the same way we might do that for a small child, we actually have to continue doing that and parenting ourselves. Kindness, positivity, unconditional love, bravery, forgiveness, encouragement, positive affirmations. These are the sweet ingredients on a daily basis that have to happen. And it's so radical. It's so empowering. It's delicious. It's high vibrational. So I always have to try. It's not you don't arrive. My partner and I joke, we say it all the time. We're like, I'm on the journey. I'm on the journey. I'm on the journey.
Amazing. What is like your kind of morning routine? Do you kind of wake up feeling this high vibe, this connection, to the God energy, or do you have to kind of move through it in a way? I'm just curious, like, how do you start your days?
So I wake up, and a lot of times my tendency is to want to stay in the bed. And so I've recently having to actively force myself, 1, 2, 3, let's go. So I'll get up, I'll go, and then I'll make the bed. That's the first and foremost. Then next, I will make myself a matcha, and I'll put on either a Deepak Chopra meditation. I love his meditations, or I'll just put on, drone music, like just 432 hertz or any kind of instrumental music. I'll light sage, I'll light an incense, and I will sit for a meditation with my matcha. And then that'll usually be about 20 to 30 minutes. I will do morning pages, 3 minutes, 3 pages of free writing, like don't let the pencil stop, like release the monkey mind kind of thing. And then most of the time, I will then do movement before I shower. So that's the like 1.5 hour, like end to end morning flow. It's matcha, movement, meditation, morning pages. And I won't miss a day. I won't miss a day because I see the ability of me to shift my own energy. And the more you practice that, then when something is challenging on a day to day, you can actually notice how you're feeling about it. Take a moment and you can change your own relationship to the thing. You can change your own emotional reaction to the thing. And as someone who is female, is Pisces, is an artist, I'm super sensitive. So I actually have had to learn how to manage my emotions responsibly. Otherwise, I'm constantly a slave to them rather than empowered by them. So this is the morning routine, and it's not always easy, but I always do it because I never want to miss a day.
I love that so much. It's interesting because I think a lot of people are like, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. We have to create boundaries. And I'm like, no, we need resilience. We need to you know what I mean? Like we need to equip ourselves for deep resilience because especially with where technology is going and social media is going, like there's going to be more bombardment. And so creating a
Yes.
level of, just like creating like the God self, essentially, like you had mentioned earlier, right? It's not about necessarily having so many boundaries. Because I've been noticing there's like a lot of therapy that's really pushing the narrative of like my boundaries, my boundaries. I'm like, well, then life becomes very small, I think
Wow.
yeah. So
yeah, it's both and. It's both and. I think you're absolutely right. And I like that you're using the word resilience. And I think it's like resilience and boundaries met with like lightheartedness also, because I'll watch myself on Instagram and I'll be like, this is hilarious. Like I immediately want to buy, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I watch myself being like, oh, those Adidas are cool. Oh, this Gucci jacket is sick. Like now I'm immediately shopping for Gucci. Like within the span of 20 seconds, I was trying to post my own podcast on Instagram and now I'm shopping for a $5,000 jacket. Like it's hilarious how effective the algorithms are. It's amazing. And so there has to be this sense of like, space for laughter, for self-awareness, for like seeing how ludicrous the whole thing is. And it actually allows us to soften and not participate rather than feeling like defeated by it.
Yes. Oh, totally, totally. It's so funny because there's like these packets of energy that can swing in and like take our attention. And it's like, I'm always doing the back end energy cost. I'm like, it's not just 1 minute on Instagram. It's like the 10 hours that I like went down some like thought rabbit hole in my neural network. And now I'm like so off track of what I wanted to do.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Well said.
Right. This is the back end energy cost. I think that's the thing that I'm tracking. But so I wanted to ask, how was your experience touring with MIA? I mean, she's also just a trailblazer, and I have a lot of respect for her. I'm curious, were there any like interesting themes that came out of that experience? Did you feel like a sense of motivation or inspiration? What was it like?
10 years ago, I was working for Interscope Records as their first ever digital analyst. I was just out of college. I was a math major in college. And so my job was analyzing Spotify streams, but inside the record label. MIA was signed to the record label. And so bravely in a meeting one day, I raised my hand and I asked her product managing team when she was not in the room that if I could be her drummer because she probably could use a drummer on tour. And somehow one thing led to another. And that's actually what happened. On my way out of Interscope, I got picked up to drum for Maya on her Matangi tour in 2013, the same year I started Harvard Business School. What I learned from the trip is flexibility. She would be so inspired by our tour dates. We would land in Toronto, and on the way to the venue, we'd drive by Little India, and she'd ask us to stop and go buy Hindu prayer bells and holy powder and coconuts to bless the stage before we started the show. And we would do it, or the next day we would play a show in the UK, and we would start a song called Born Free, and she would just stop the song in the middle and be like, this is too depressing. Everyone's in a good mood. Like, we're not going to play this song. Let's play the next song. So there was a lot of flexibility and fluidity in her presence of awareness that I thought was high functioning. And she had a great team that allowed for that to happen real time. I also noticed a lot of the dysfunction on the tour, not really necessarily related to the artist, but just in general, there's a lot of mood, emotion, lack of emotional intelligence. And so as a leader, I also thought, it's a missed opportunity that we're not training young people in music to be more emotionally intelligent, to be stronger leaders. Because actually in music and the arts, we have to spend so much time with one another. And what we're putting out into the world is dependent on who we're surrounding ourselves with. And so that kind of emotional intelligence training of being kind to one another, peaceful, self-aware, asking for what we need in order to show up and do our best, that was really missing from the tour experience. So in that way, it was important for me to step into my leadership when I started the Madame Gandhi project so that I can also be a more responsible leader on tour and beyond.
Amazing. And so, by the way, when you chose the name Madame Gandhi, can you tell us what inspired you for that name?
Yes, my last name is Gandhi, and I knew I wanted to celebrate my Indian heritage in the context of my artist career. And then I liked the idea of Madame Gandhi because it celebrated the feminine style of leadership, walking in your higher power, walking with emotional intelligence, walking in that kind of queens do queen things energy. It's not like a ball busting energy. It's actually a high vibrational love, maternal style of leadership where my favorite is when the men are so excited to be part of my project and see the sweetness of it and see the empowerment of it and see the value of when our most vulnerable members of society are empowered, the whole society thrives. And that so much of the pain that exists in the world is because of this lack of healing between the genders. It's such a missed opportunity. When I'm hanging with the men in my life who support me and uplift me, my father, my brother, I'm my best as a woman, my absolute best. And it allows me to give to them as well in a way that their other masculine influences can't give to them. We need the women to be strong so that the men can be strong. We need the men to give love to the women so that we also can benefit from that care. And right now, there's so much fighting, there's so much negativity. It's foolish. It's not the design that's meant to be.
Mm, yeah, could not agree more. Super cool. I'm fascinated by that inspiration for your name. I was just wondering how it came about. So, Kieran, looking back on your journey, you've had like such a incredible journey. Honestly, you've had a lot of different lives kind of packed into a very short period of time. What sort of things have surprised you the most? Looking back, could be on your music, it could be on society, or even coming out of the pandemic. But what has surprised you the most?
I think what's most important for anyone listening and for myself to remember as well is that sometimes we feel like in every moment we're not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. Or look at this other person. They've achieved so much, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, even when I was deciding to go and do my second master's most recently, I did a music technology master's at Stanford, and the label and my manager and my friends were like, "What? You're going to take a year off to go and do a master's like in the middle of having just put out an album on Sony? Like what a waste. Like, that's crazy. You already have a master's. Like, what a waste. The year came and went faster than anyone. Like, it's like it's completely irrelevant. Like, 9 months is nothing. It's like, and now I have an extra master's from this prestigious program. I went to Antarctica. I built underwater microphones. Like, I have a whole new body of
Wow.
work because of this experience. It's like, and also just joy. Like, I wanted to do it for no other reason than let's see what it can provide me. And lucky I did, because it opened up a chapter. So the takeaway and the message is for us to not be so fearful that in every given moment we're not doing enough, or that, like this experience is not useful or relevant. I've tied so many of my most simple experiences into a larger win, because I've followed happy energy and joyfulness and something that feels like fun. Like, even as I described earlier, playing with my partner's young kids is some of the most joyful times in my life. I learn from those experiences. I'm humbled by those experiences. I practice that leadership style then as a businesswoman. Do you know what I mean? So, optimize for your joy. Don't feel I'm not doing enough, or, this is a waste of my time. The only thing that is a waste of your time is doing something that you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I always, tell people if you have to convince yourself of something, then it's like, no. It just
True. I
has,
love that.
yeah. So, Kieran, what do you want to tell our listeners as like your main takeaway? What do you want folks who are listening all over the world to do today or to think about today? What's your kind of big message?
It's to meet your own needs so that you can be in service. Meet your own needs so that you can be in service. If you're fighting with somebody, take a moment, give yourself what you need. A lot of times we fight, we have issues, we feel something has been done to us unjustly because we're not meeting our own needs. We're not reaching for our own goals. When we feel threatened by somebody else's success, it has nothing to do with that other person. It's because we are not reaching our own full potential and we're not being honest about that. So, my number one takeaway from today, and for any of us to remember, myself included, is that when we're fighting externally or we have a moodiness externally, it's because some intrinsic need has not been met, or we are not actively pursuing that need in order to come with nice energy. So meet your own needs so that you can be in service, so that you can come with love energy, with bandwidth, with ability to hold space for somebody else's perspective, to come with patience, with kindness, with joy, with humility, high vibrational choices and behaviors. Meet your own needs so that you can be in service.
I love that so much. What a great way to end. And where can people find you? Where can you point folks to in order to learn more just about you generally, and obviously your music? Where can they find your music?
Of course, everything's on my Instagram at Madame Gandhi. Everyone spells Gandhi wrong. It's spelled like Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhi. Um, Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming services. My show calendar, speaking and performing, is on my website, madamegandhi.com. And Yasmin, thank you again for the thoughtful deep dive of questions and for your spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here in the world as well.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, Karen. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about conscious music consumption and why your voice matters with Madame Gandhi. And you can tune into Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again.